What do you think has more of an impact on a voter and a consumer of media? Just the objective set of circumstances that the United States is complicit in, the Democrats are complicit in, the death and destruction that they see, or that they didn't like that, whatever. But then like Mike from PA or Hassan's editorialization around it ends up being more the thing that actually tips them, and that's what pisses them off. So not the images of all the kids.
Yeah, the dynamic is always in this situation. You have like a larger issue that's creating a lot of discourse, and you have a lot of opinions going this way and that way. There's a massive spectrum of like ideological differences there. So in what you're saying is this larger issue matters more than a specific subgroup. You're correct.
More impactful. I'm saying more impactful.
Well, of course you're correct there. Of course.
Okay.
But
I just wanted to make sure we agree on that.
No, but
that's more impact. The actual objective facts are more impactful than how Hassan spins it, or how Mike from PA spins it.
Do you understand that you could use this logic to say that Joe Rogan is not influential?
I'm not saying that they're not influential, but we don't have a leftist Joe Rogan. The whole thing is that we're trying to get one because we don't have anyone that's even approximating that scale.
No, but let's not get sidetracked. That's not the point I'm making. You're saying that because
what do you mean? No, get sidetracked. You're the one who brought it up.
No, but it's the point I'm making is completely addressing specifically what you're saying here, because you're saying that the larger issue matters more than how the leftist online space engaged with that issue. But you could use that to say like, okay, vaccine distribution is a big.
Bro, I'm returning to high school. I'm returning to high school levels of black pill, okay? Dude, it really is true. The prettier the woman, the worse their takes are, dude. The prettier the woman, the sexier they are, the worse their takes are, okay? Find yourself an ugly bitch, okay? Listen, ugly bitches need attention too, alright? Ugly bitches probably have the best takes because they're true to themselves, okay? Listen, find yourself an ugly bitch.
Bigger issue than Joe Rogan being anti-vax. Does that mean he wasn't influential?
I'm getting too black pilled, dude. If I see another Yeet girl making a fucking bad take, I will actually lose it.
Leftist creator combined doesn't even hold a candle to the influence that a single episode of Joe Rogan has.
But that doesn't. I don't know what point you're making with that. That doesn't mean that they don't have influence.
I'm not saying that. I never said that they don't have influence. I said it's just not nearly as significant. Because you said like I said not really, as in there's some influence, but it's not really as substantial as you think. You're overstating it.
Like I do actually think Natalie, at the very least, right? Where we're talking about Contrapoints Natalie, right? Not you. That she at least believes that she actually believes by her own nuanced definition that the Israelis are committing a genocide, right? She believes that by her own nuance. Listen, I expect Contrapoints to actually have principles. Okay, fuck it. I will say that she is true to her principles. That's why she got like canceled so many times, right? I will actually think so. Okay, but the thing is fuck whatever.
Okay, I think that the online kind of leftist space, it's not just about like what they're specifically posting. People sort of.
No, I feel like I've always had this belief about Contrapoints my whole life.
Like passively engage with these people's posts. They might not be super familiar with everything that Hassan does, but maybe they see a post show up on their Instagram feed or their Twitter feed or something like that. So we're not just restricting it to these people's communities. And I do think that the leftist pro-Palestine voices that were pushing an anti-Zionist, like heavy anti-Zionist message, I do think that they had a huge like impact on the culture. I observed it on my feed. I've observed it in conversations that I've had, numerous conversations that I've had throughout the last couple of years. I think I'm just rejecting your premise here that, all that they did, all that activism they did, like none of that made any difference in the election. I don't think that's true. I think it did depress the turnout. I'm not blaming them exclusively, but they, in some small part, I think contributed to
before the election that we don't need these people, they're completely irrelevant, we can win without them. And
do you know who
we win?
Do you know who I was replying to?
We win because it's gonna be no.
Let's pull up.
Just tell me.
Pull up the tweet. No, hold on. Let's pull up the tweet. Hold on.
Well, you think you're about to get some gotcha on me, but like
You just tried to do a gotcha on me, though.
Your statement.
Fine.
Gotcha,
Anybody can look on that.
He's trying to get you to concede certain things.
Well, let me address this tweet. You brought up the tweet. Let me address the tweet.
You mischaracterizing my answers to things because I never said. I said you asked me. This all started because you asked me, do these people have a significant amount of influence? And I said not really. And then you changed it to you strawman me and you said, oh, you think they have zero? And I didn't say that they have zero. I
okay,
said
then
not as nearly as significant as you think.
Then I don't understand how what you're presenting.
How did you go from saying that like they don't have any or like they're going to be irrelevant and you'll be happy when Kamala Harris wins because we can ignore them, to now they're responsible for the Democrats losing, when I don't put more like
I didn't say that.
Like I think, what did you say then?
I'll repeat it. I said that in a situation where Donald Trump.
This feels like a couple that's arguing, dude. I feel bad for Straight Raid's boyfriend, aka Lycan. Okay, can you just imagine getting into a fight with her every fucking time? Holy manipulation, gaslight, girl boss,
one with the kind of margins he did. You can't point to like one group like that or another. It's a collective. Like it's a collective accountability and responsibility. Do you understand that concept? And like you brought up the tweet of me saying, what do you want? I think I said something like, what do you want me to beg? I'm not going to beg. We'll do it without you. That guy, his entire Twitter feed was just like Genocide Joe, Jill Stein. He was a lunatic. Like that guy I was never going to be able to convince that guy. There was nothing I could have done to dissuade him. And he was actively using his platform every day to discourage people from voting for Democrats. So I do not regret telling that idiot. I'm not gonna.
No wonder she's this stupid. She's dating someone just as stupid. I don't get why Lycan is like a machine. Okay, he's like a mechanism. He's not even like a human being. Okay, I'll explain why. All right, Lycan. Scientists are shocked. Okay, at how Lycan manages to become the most efficient maker of bad takes, okay, ever known to man. All right, he is the bad take machine. Okay, whatever good take someone has, he will make it bad. Okay,
beg you. That's what they want. They want to feel important.
I'm about the content of what you're saying, of what you said to him. If you're saying it was highly personalized to just that specific person, then I misunderstood it. I remember the sentiment being in general.
Anybody who was doing what he was doing, anybody who was constantly every day telling people the Democrats, they're just as bad. I'm not going to beg those people. I'm not even going to waste my time trying to convince them. Those people are like completely ideologically captured. Like these are unmovable people.
Agreed with you, and they were worse off for it.
You think they would have gained more voters if they tried to appeal to that particular type of person? This dude was literally tweeting like 25 times a day, Joe Biden, he killed everybody, and you should like not vote for him.
I feel like this is like this can apply to any lefty now. I feel like every single lefty is like this crazy weirdo terminally online person who is like fucking delusional about everything.
Yeah,
and you think she should have spent her
that say these things? But
yeah.
Like, when you have the uncommitted movement that didn't they get like 700,000 votes? 700,000 people taking time out of their day to, in a primary, vote for uncommitted, to signal to the party that they're a part of. This is an issue that's important to me. Please reconsider your position on it. Move on it. This is how I want there to be a permanent ceasefire or whatever. And I also want there to be potentially an arms embargo and other demands, right? And then they go to the DNC and they can't even get a speaking spot. Like a Palestinian American who is an elected representative in Georgia can't even get on the stage at the DNC, but there's room for anti-Trump Republicans. Okay. Like, that's you at that point prioritizing capturing Republicans.
Well, maybe the priority here isn't like actually whether or not there's a genocide going on in Gaza. Maybe like in another fucking country. Okay, maybe the priority is actually Americans. It's maybe things that people actually care about. Maybe Democrats actually know that this is something that people. How could you have both at the same time? How could you say that the leftists don't actually do enough to influence the vote, but at the same time you're also saying, yeah, they actually, this is an issue that people talk about enough and it's important enough to the point where they need to have a seat at the table for these kinds of people, right? Like the thing is that you can't have your cake and eat it too. You need to pick one. Either people care about the issue or they don't care about the issue. Okay, you need to pick one. You can't just say, oh, leftists have both. At the same time, they can't influence the vote, and at the same time, because they're not important enough. Oh, but they are important enough to the point where they should have a seat at the table. Do you see how these two are not like they're not reconcilable? Like these 2 points don't make any sense. Yeah, like you can't be simultaneously important and unimportant at the same time. It is the Mott and Bailey of responsibility, dude. This is abuser tactics right here, 100%.
Who are to me way more off the deep end. Anyone who's even like flirting with MAGA or whatever, like not just saying don't vote for Joe, but actively saying like considering voting for Trump. That seems like a person that's way harder to reach than somebody who's like actually going to a ballot box, casting their vote, and trying to signal to the party, I would like you to move on this. This is important to me. And they're still saying no.
Okay.
Like, the opportunities that they could have, like, given it to some of their demands, and they should have, they're not doing it. And they're also doing things like heading to Dearborn, Michigan, and lecturing voters, Muslim voters, about Judea and Samaria.
Okay, to unpack the uncommitted
This girl is not cooking.
thing, like, I actually don't know if I have a big issue with them, like, doing that during the primaries. And quite frankly, by the time we got to the general, I don't like love what they did, but what they essentially did was, vote against Trump. They were essentially telling people to vote for Kamala without saying vote for Kamala, because they had some members in their leadership that were just saying, I can't do it. And they wanted to make space for those people. But they were essentially telling people to vote for Kamala. So like, I don't really reserve a lot of smoke for those people. I completely, especially if you have like a familial link to Gaza, if you have family there, I completely understand like feeling that way and wanting to do this like action that you feel or you hope is going to move the party in some meaningful way. But if we want to really unpack the whole uncommitted situation at the DNC, it's really important to contextualize what happened. The uncommitted movement were advertising a massive protest at the DNC. They were telling people 30,000 people are going to be here. We're going to raise hell. This is going to be like the 68 convention, which if you know anything about U.S. history,
they got like 250 people. They didn't get the people out mobilized.
They got like, hold on, well, let me finish my point. They got like 3,000 people, so it was like 1/10 the size. And then after that, they went to Kamala's scene.
I thought it was like 250. So
no, it was a few thousand collectively, I think. And then after.
Hey, Natalie Elliott, welcome to Tier 1. I appreciate that.
More shall gather, more shall enter the fray.
Welcome. Welcome to the hive, okay? Welcome to the food court.
That failed, then they went to Kamala and they were like, we demand a speaking spot. That is a coronation for the point of the DNC is to get people excited to vote for the candidate. It is not, the point of the DNC is to not allow a platform to every single activist who has some cause that they want to lobby for.
But why are you focusing so much on the 3,000 that showed up or whatever, instead of like, that doesn't negate that hundreds of thousands of people cast a vote in what wasn't really even like a primary thing, right? It wasn't, do you feel like the Democrats really held a primary?
They went through the formal process of having the primary votes, and that's what the uncommitted thing was all about.
Right, but it was like, there weren't debates, there weren't like,
No, there never are when an incumbent runs for re-election. That's just not what the parties do.
Right. So that, to me, that only speaks to how much more significant it is that people went out of their way to vote uncommitted. So regardless of whether 3,000
I just told you I was fine with that, though.
Regardless of whether 3,000 people show up or 20,000 people, the Democrats should be making overtures to that group because they are a voting bloc. Like objectively, that's 700,000 people in their party who took time to do that.
You understand that like thousands of other activist
how many
groups.
more people needed to show up at the DNC for you to think that they probably should have let a speaker on there?
Do you agree that the DNC?
Like you're
wait, hold on. You asked me a question. Wait, hold on. You got to ask me a question, and then I.
Okay with it?
You keep doing this thing where you ask me a question, and then I begin to answer it, and then you cut me off. Like it's happened like so many times.
Here. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off or whatever.
Well, do you agree that the DNC is a coronation ceremony? It's a hype situation. Everybody that's out there, it's like, dun, 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 dun. You're getting the crowd hyped up, and the whole point of it is like, we want to get.
Aw, Lynn, thank you so much. That's so nice of you to do. Tagging everyone to give money to me. That's very nice. Thank you. I do appreciate that. I want to like straight away, but she keeps saying stupid stuff daily. you should hate her. Okay, you should hate her. She backstabs every major connection she has. Okay, fuck. I don't even know why she backstabs this much. It's not even good for her. It's
People
crazy
energized
how much she
to
backstabs them.
vote for this candidate. Do you understand that? Like any other number,
See why like there's room for in that hype strategy, why there's room for anti-Trump
why?
Republicans,
Why
but
does she
not
do this?
Palestinian American Democrats.
because that was literally the most divisive issue in the entire country at the time. Like,
But this is for those.
what if a Zionist group demanded a speaking spot? Would you have supported that? That's a.
I would
mean,
be surprised if they did it. Yeah, like I'm not surprised.
no. What if like a Zionist group, like a super pro-Israel group that like dedicated to like we need to beat Hamas and blah blah blah, and they had like significant numbers, and like what if they demand? Should they have been?
Happened? Didn't I remember they brought families from the hostages up, right?
Did you
I could be wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of the RNC.
No, we're talking about Zionism. People like not just like vaguely supporting like bring the hostages home. It's like people that are like
Would I personally support it? No, but I would also recognize that like this is like clearly for voters other than myself or whatever. In the same way, I would expect those same voters to recognize that like if they're bringing a Palestinian American up there, that even if you're personally opposed to it, it's a pitch to voters that are outside of that are not just you.
But you don't think this context like gives it a kind of a different significance? The context was like they were basically promising chaos at the convention, and then they didn't get the numbers they wanted. The uncommitted movement, they were pitching a 68 style protest movement. If you know anything about like the 68 primaries, it was chaos in Chicago, and they were wanting to echo that. And then when that didn't happen, then
Like a statement I could look at where they were saying like it's going to be like chaos or whatever.
you can look at like the various ways that the individual actors that were a part of this movement were tweeting about it, how they were advertising for it. It was obvious that they were trying to echo what happened in the 68 convention, which was chaos. And then when that didn't work out, they tried to demand a slot. And I'm sorry, but you don't understand the concern that maybe Kamala's team had about like, I don't know, like what if they get up there and they go off script and they say something that's crazy divisive? Like, you're not going to take that risk in that spot as a nominee. Like, how many thousands of other activist groups do you think should have demanded a speaking spot at the DNC?
He had a pre-approved speech. I listened to the speech that she was going to that Georgia Democrat was going to give. It was entirely inoffensive.
But you don't know. Like, the point was that there was a risk that possibly they could have gone off speech, and
that risk exists with any single person that gets up on that stage.
The risk is significantly lower if it's like a sheriff in Texas that's just like vaguely, like Democrat. It's like we're talking about
Republican. You never know what they're gonna say.
I mean, I feel like
even if you're an anti-Trump Republican, you're still a Republican, so you're crazy.
Would you acknowledge that it was like kind of risky? Like, do you wait, hold on. Like,
no more risky than any other speaker going off script.
Okay, we just don't agree on that one. I don't know. I don't know how to like. Obviously, there was risk there. It didn't mean that she didn't care about Palestinians, but the purpose of the convention is to get people excited. And these people had the uncommitted movement had demonstrated an intent to be a sort of like chaotic presence at the.
Nothing says hi for the candidate quite like making a statement on the most controversial issue of the last 10 years. Exactly, dude. These people are actually delusional, okay? Like, actually fucking, like, out of their fucking minds.
They're
DNC.
not the source of the chaos. The Democrats supporting this is the source of the chaos to me. And I don't think the onus is on people to just shut the fuck up about it.
I didn't say people should shut the fuck up about it. I didn't say that.
No, I'm not saying that you're saying it. I'm saying that I don't think that the onus is more on activists, constituents, individual voters than it is on the party to recognize like where their base is shifting on this issue and to potentially make overtures to accommodate that. They do it with every other issue. They started pivoting right on immigration very, very quickly.
What does Hutch mean risky? So from what I garner, okay, what he's talking about is that it was an event that was supposed to get people amped up about the DNC. So instead, you want to talk about an issue that is so controversial, so divisive, to the point where it might tear people away from the DNC because of possible inactions or bad things that they've done. Like, you're basically scrapping together like any semblance of like you're trying to sabotage just so people can feel good about themselves. That's what you're saying. You're like, so then people can feel it wouldn't be good for electoral chances whatsoever. There's no fucking shot it would. Okay, just FYI.
That bipartisan border bill had tons of things in it that I was like, they should not have conceded this or whatever, but I realized they were trying to win a general, and they felt that that was the pitch that they needed to make to voters. I disagreed with
their own voters. I mean, their own majority of Democratic voters supported that bill. You know that, right? Like their own voters were pressuring them to take action on the border.
Well, they didn't allow the pro-Palestine speakers and lost. Well, if you listen to the stream, remember when I said that hindsight is 2020? Don't be a hindsight Andy. You can't just say, "Oh, this is the reason why they lost," right?
Like they weren't just doing that to try to look conservative. It was just.
And 700,000 voters went out of their way to vote uncommitted, so they were trying to pressure the party as well, and that's not something to be ignored.
I mean, do you think it was a good?
Really, wait. I did want to ask you this question.
Okay, sure.
So you said because only 3,000 people showed up, they shouldn't get a speaking spot. If the 25,000 had showed up, should they have gotten a speaking spot?
Even more no in that spot, obviously.
Why did you make it sound like the reason why they shouldn't be given is because it was only 3,000 people that showed up, and then never mind the 700,000 people that voted? But now it just seems like you were principally opposed to it no matter what. So it seemed like no matter how many people they brought out, no matter how many people voted in the uncommitted, for uncommitted in the primary, you just are principally opposed to it. Why even make gestures or like signal the idea that like there was something that they that would get you okay with it when it didn't seem like they could.
I'm not morally opposed to someone advocating for like an arms embargo. I'm not saying that's morally bad. I support that kind of thing. I'm talking about put yourself in the shoes. You're a campaign strategist for Kamala Harris. You're at the convention.
Don't be a hindsight Andy. What can we base our opinions then? You can it's probably better to say, oh, that could have helped, that could have been better, that could have made things worse, that could have whatever. But when you say, oh, this is why they lost, this is exactly why, it's because of my one issue that I super care about. Yeah, you're being hindsight Andy.
Your only job is to be there to get people excited to vote in this election for Kamala Harris. And then a group that
hypothetical based on alternative. That's literally what lefties do. What are you talking about? Don't make any criticisms that apply to your own side. That's insane.
Advertise themselves to be a somewhat chaotic presence is now making a demand to speak at your convention. And I can't get you to like put yourself in the shoes of a campaign strategist and be like, we're not going to do that.
I have already put it, but I think ultimately it's the wrong choice. I'm not saying that they should have zero reservations. I'm saying I understand the reservations, but ultimately the smarter thing I think would have been that it's still less risky to allow them to have a speaker with a pre-approved speech, a Palestinian American Georgia Democrat, and that we listen to our constituents, our voters. These are not just random chaotic people. I assume if you're showing up to the DNC to protest, you're a voter. You're probably a Democratic voter, or you want to be. So I think it's important to listen to those people. Like they're agents of chaos that are like just like from nowhere or whatever, but these are people that to me seem as organized as you could, like the most organized and most disciplined activists who are passionate about this issue, because they actually took the time to go to the DNC. They actually took the time to vote uncommitted in a primary.
We're spending a lot of time talking about the primaries, but like when we get to the general, this is when the big decision is made. Do you even disagree that not voting for Kamala was a horrible decision?
No.
You don't disagree?
Everyone who could have voted for Kamala, who was of voting age, should have been voting for Kamala Harris.
So your issue with Contra is that she shouldn't be talking about those people. Rather, she should be talking about the Democratic Party and just like, is there ever an appropriate time to criticize people for making a bad choice like that? Or criticizing people that have platforms who played into this climate of just exclusively focusing on Democrats and not properly educating their followers on the unique dangers that Trump posed? Like, is there ever a time we can talk about that?
Well, yes, of course. But I think in the context of this is the first statement that she's made on Gaza. And like it's been almost 2 years, 20 months since like October 7th, since all this began, right? And if this is the first statement, and within that statement you even acknowledge that a genocide is going on, then I expect the priorities to be, and like what you choose to talk about in that statement, to be a bit different. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not saying she can't make the thing, but I expected there to be a more, I guess, something more robust than what she offered. And I mean, you even said at the beginning of this that like when we got onto the statement, you were saying that like to offer a criticism without offering an alternative or like guidance for what would be helpful and like what they ought to do instead is like you're ending. Of course you're going to get the reaction that she did because you're criticizing people. You don't provide an alternative, and so they have a very uncharitable interpretation. They view it as hostile.
I think the reactions to her post justify it, to be quite frank with you, because she made it quite clear in the post that she considered anti-Zionism, which is to say, like, setting as a goal, like, dismantling the current Israeli government. She said in the post that she correctly said in the post that this goal was completely unrealistic. So if she would have spoke up a year ago or a year and a half ago and said, look, I've donated money to Palestinians. I think they deserve their own state, but I think anti-Zionism is a doomed cause. What do you think the reactions to that would have been? I feel like people didn't really want.
Victor, I totally agree with you. Okay,